Hey everybody, welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello, and today I've got Tony Whatley on the show. Tony, welcome.
Chris, thanks for having me on, man. It's good to connect, and I've been watching you, and you've been doing some great things, and I'm honored to be on your show, brother.
Likewise, and it's great to connect. I know we got a chance to meet, I think, for your birthday dinner, maybe around a year or so ago. I just dropped by and got to talk with you and your wife for a little bit. And so it's awesome to be connecting here. We're going to be talking about some really cool stuff here. And real quick, I just wanted to introduce you to the audience so they have an idea of who you are. You are the Side Hustle Millionaire. You're the coach of exceptional entrepreneurs, the host of the 365 Driven podcast, Amazon #1 best-selling author, and a keynote speaker. Quite a resume. And you also have some of your experience here that you sent over to me. Started multiple seven-figure side businesses, created 500K plus member online communities, sold a side hustle for millions, guest on over 300 podcasts, and you've also been featured on Forbes, Fox, ABC, CBS, NBC, Parade, and Thrive Global. That's awesome. And I love the bio that you set up here. I'm like, man, I gotta catch up to you, man. So welcome once again.
That's good stuff. Well, all those sound like great accolades, but when you think back of all the things that you had to achieve to get there, you're like, wow, it didn't seem that hard, but the results just kind of stack over time by just taking intentional steps over a long period of time. That's all it is.
Absolutely. And then you just look back and you're like, whoa, I actually got all that stuff done.
Yeah. Is that me? Is that me you're talking about?
It's amazing. And I guess in the moment, it's kind of like when the time passes by, like everyone says, 2020 flew by. But if you think about it, every single day, especially like the quarantine when everything was closed, it really kind of went slow if you think about it day to day. But if you look back, that's when it flies by. So I guess same thing with your skills. You're like, man, am I really learning? Am I really growing? And then you have record business months and you're like, oh, I guess I am growing.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool, man. Well, it's really great to have you on the show. And let's dive into your story a little bit because, I mean, I know you're the Side Hustle Millionaire. I've seen your posts as well on Facebook, and I'm just very interested. You're very on top of like the trends, like Clubhouse. We're going to talk about that today as well. So feel free to take it from here. What would you like to let the audience know about who Tony Whatley is?
I think most people ask if you can be born an entrepreneur or become an entrepreneur. I think the answer is both. Okay. I think looking back at my childhood, I grew up lower middle class here in the Houston area. It's my home city. You know, we're both here. And
yep.
To me, I'm the product of a very high level disciplined set of parents who worked really hard in blue collar careers for their entire life until they retired. So my mom was a cafeteria worker in the public schools. And my dad, after he got out of the Marines, was in the construction industry and the refineries here in South Houston. So I saw the value of hard work, and I saw what the fear of not having your job when layoffs occurred in that industry with my dad. And I saw that determination can make things happen. And although we grew up in one of the worst neighborhoods in my town, our house was always one of the nicer ones because my parents always had pride in what they had. So we would buy literally the worst house in the neighborhood as a fixer-upper, and we would live in it and fix it up as we go. So it was my mom, my sister, my dad, and me. So four of us. And we would end up living in those houses probably 6-7 years, and then we would sell it and get a little bit bigger house, but still the same situation. So I grew up through 3 flip-up houses basically until they finally bought their first new house when I was already older. But understanding that it was very grounded principles that I needed to be really focused on what I wanted to achieve. And they were always telling me things. My mom's a Japanese immigrant. And so she would always say things like, you don't know how good you have it in this country. You don't know how hard it is in different countries. You can be anything you want. So she instilled within me the growth mindset. I didn't know what all this was. Just how I was raised. Like when we hear vision boards and things like that, I had that. I had a cork board, and she would call it like my dream board or something. So I would cut things out of magazines, the car magazines, right? We're car guys. So cut those things out and I thumbtack them on there. And anytime I won an award, it would go on there just to kind of reinforce the things I'm doing. And so I had this cork board always above my desk as a child, and that is a vision board. And I didn't even know what a vision board was, and probably till I was like 30 years old, I heard that phrase come across like, yeah, that's a great idea. Wait a minute.
I did that.
That's what I have that. That's cool. You know, I get that. So I didn't understand that so many other people were raised differently. I thought that was a normal thing. Right. And, you know, going back to the discipline, my mom being a Japanese woman, In Japan, in her era, whenever you finished junior high, you basically got pulled out of the school system as a woman and you went into work in the farms. So she worked in the farms and she valued education because she never got to keep going and doing that like the boys did. So she was very strict on education. Like you hear a lot of Asian mothers, and I made straight A's, graduated top 10% of my class. And here's the weird thing. I never missed a single day of school from kindergarten through graduation. I had
That's amazing.
13 years of perfect attendance. And I think I was the only one in the entire school system like that. And honestly, that created the discipline in my life. And that's why my brand is called 365 Driven. And while I get that, some people think, oh man, that's impossible. No, it's not. Because if you can show up one day, you can show up 365 days. It's just an excuse that we carry in our heads. And so I grew into that, and I was chasing that 6-figure income that everybody is looking for, right? If you can make 6 figures, you're rich, Chris. You're rich. You're gonna, that's what you're led to believe when you grow up middle class. Like, got to make 100,000. My mom never made 100,000. I get it. Average income right now in the United States is 68,000 combined household income. So I get it. There's a lot of people who haven't made 6 figures, but I'm telling you, that goal was established in the 1960s. And with inflation, you probably need to make about $500,000 relative to the $100,000 in the 1960s. So don't think that you're going to have this lifestyle change and it's going to be awesome and you're going to be popping bottles and buying all these brand new things. It's just not going to happen. We have SUVs that cost $100,000 nowadays when you put it in perspective. So I just knew that I wanted to get there, and the only way I knew how to get there was go to get a degree. And they always tell you, go be a doctor, a lawyer, or engineer, right? I said, well, I like cars, but I'm average at math, but I like cars. So I went and got the mechanical engineering degree, and I put myself through school. It took me 7 years. I didn't take any loans out. I worked construction just like my dad in the daytime, and I would go to school at night. And on the weekends, I would wait tables at the restaurants, Clear Lake Bay Area. And I would also work on cars at a mechanic shop on Saturday mornings until about 3 p.m. I would go wait tables. So I was working 3 jobs, going school full time and working full time. And that's why it took me so long. And it was the worst time of my life, really, to be honest. I don't enjoy college. I was very average at a lot of things in engineering. And my grades suffered because I was sleep deprived and I was broke and I was stressed out and all these different things. But I didn't quit. I never changed majors and I never quit. And that's who I am. I said, I don't want to be a quitter. I don't want to be like half the people out there that start some degree plan and they pivot to go some other way because it's easier for them and they can finish sooner. I was like, no, I'm going to stick to it. And I'm glad I did, because although I don't use my degree nowadays, it served me very well in my career, oil and gas, but it didn't scratch the itch of cars, right? So I started my businesses in the car industries and the performance and the racing industry and grew those to multiple 7 figures. And it was always a side business for me. So I grew ls1tech.com, which was a General Motors performance website. It grew into number 1 in the internet. And we had over 300,000 registered members. And to give an idea of how busy that website is, we had 100,000 unique visitors per day on that website. We made our revenue from marketing and live racing events and things like that. So it became a whirlwind, dude. And nowadays I teach full time and I coach one-on-one and I help people start and scale, exit their businesses.
That's awesome. And I've heard your story. I've listened to several of your podcast episodes as well. And I mean, I'm just really inspired to hear how you've put yourself through school. You worked multiple jobs. I do tell people, while I do have my college degree up in the frame behind me, it's like, I'm not sure how much of that I really use in my day-to-day business stuff and my entrepreneurial learnings that I've been going through. But at the same time, I kind of took it for granted. I had the parents that, hey, Chris, we're going to put you through school. Just focus on it. Don't work. Just study. And so, I studied and I partied and I slept in a little bit. And it became very easy to waste time, right? When I only had 1 or 2 classes on a Wednesday and I could go to the gym for 2 hours and, let me go to this party on a Wednesday night. It was, I guess I didn't quite get as grown up as fast as you did, because you were working jobs. You didn't have time to waste on things like that. And I think that really helped. Like you said, now you're 365 driven. I'd like to think that I'm 365 driven, but it took me a while to get here. I mean, I didn't really start thinking like this until I was 25, 26 probably. I just turned 30 this year. So thank you for sharing that. And how are your parents? Are they still living in town? Are they still alive and everything?
Yeah, they're both happily retired, living in Friendswood, and they're basically the Dave Ramsey type millionaires, right?
Right. No credit cards.
Anybody's ever read the book Millionaire Next Door? That's my parents.
Yep.
They got there by just greatly reducing their quality of life And my mom's a penny pincher, and she still clips coupons to this day. And she's got an organizer and I had to clip coupons with her when I was a kid. So
Yeah.
I get it. I understand that. But nowadays, I don't even want to look at a coupon, to be honest, unless it's $1,000 off or something big. But it's they saved their way to $1 million by sacrificing lifestyle, and that's fine because they're set. They don't ever have to worry about any income for the rest of their lives. They're happy. They get to travel whenever COVID's not around, but they're still living their life and they're happy. But for me, I don't really believe in the whole Dave Ramsey way of becoming a millionaire because I don't want to wait till I'm 65 to enjoy my life. I mean, are you kidding me? There's no guarantee you live that long in the first place. I had a near-death experience in 2015, and that's really what set my journey onto what I'm doing now. And so I believe in trying to figure out how to make more money in that same amount of time instead of just saving my way to success. I mean, you can do it both ways, but guys, if you want to enjoy the fruits of your labor, start a business, do something to create more income rather than just saving the income that you make.
I love that. And that's a huge mindset shift. I mean, my parents are both foreign. Dad was born in India. Mom was born in Mexico. They came here in their 20s to make a life in the US. I was born here. So were my two brothers. And I guess it's just a totally different mindset. I mean, the other day I was getting dinner with my parents, and I mean, the ketchup bottle is like almost empty. I'm like, Dad's trying to squeeze the last bit of ketchup out instead of using the new bottle. I'm like, dude, like, just use the new bottle. That's like, I don't know, 0.0003 cents or whatever the numbers are in ketchup. Like just toss it. But it's like a mindset. Like you said, you'd rather focus on making more money than saving. I've heard the quote, a penny saved is still just a penny or still just an effing penny. I think I heard Dan Locke say that. And it's true because if you just make more money.
A penny saved doesn't do anything.
It doesn't
do anything, right?
Why don't you just go make another $10,000, $20,000, or I guess the numbers, you can add more zeros to that as you scale up and level up.
It's definitely a mindset shift, Chris. And I had that, I'll call it an employee mindset. Let's be blunt here. That's what it is. It's an employee mindset, and that's derived by the school system that we go through. And it comes from the people that we deem as our authority figures in our life and society that we grow in. And that's why I was working 3 jobs and going to school. Because I had that wrong mindset. And
the more you work, the more
I didn't have
earn.
anybody successful. Yeah, there's nobody successful in my family. My dad was the first one in his family to own a house that didn't have wheels on the bottom of it. So you know what I mean? So it's he did really good to try to get us out of that situation by moving us to Houston instead of Louisiana, where he was from. And thank God he did, because it put us in a different atmosphere and we were in a better school system and around affluence. I got to ride my bicycle and see these big houses that had all these windows on the front. And I was always amazed because I only had one window in my house. And I remember standing in that window from age 3 to 5, waving at my sister getting on the bus every day. And I would just look out. I had one view out of my house, and I thought that was normal, right? That's normal.
Right.
And then when you get old enough to ride your bicycle around and you start to explore your town, you're like, holy crap, look at these houses. They have 10 windows on the front. It's like, I wonder what the view looks like in every one of those windows. I could imagine myself just running through the hallways and looking out every window. And funny enough, when I started to look at houses older, I would go look out every window. I still look out every window when I go look at a house. I mean, you're in real estate, my wife as well. Yeah. I still live in that mode. Like, I'm so excited. Like, what do I see out of this window? What do I see out of this window?
That's cool.
It's funny, right? It's things that we bring in our childhood. But I had that wrong mindset, dude. And I thought if I needed more money, this is how most people think. And I really want the listeners to catch on to this, because usually when you think about, I need more money, the first thing you think about is, I need to go get a pay raise. And if you can't get a pay raise, you're like, well, I need to get a second job. Or can I pick up more shifts? Or can I get overtime? And I made a post about this the other day when I was working construction and I had that wrong mindset. There's always the Bubba at the job site that has the biggest truck and the four-wheelers and the boat. And everybody wants to be like Bubba because he's got the newest, coolest F-350 dually or whatever. That's the things we had a lot of desire and envy for. So everybody want to be like Bubba. Like, and Bubba would sit at the table, and Bubba's just a fictional character, but there's always a Bubba at every job site, even offshore, right? And so Bubba would, sit there with this boisterous attitude, and he would tell us about how he's crushing it, and he's getting so many overtime hours, and he's just working all this hours. He's overtime, and I'm doing extra shifts, and that's how you do it, boys. And everybody's sitting around tables nodding their head because they want to be like Bubba, because their truck is 15 years old, and they don't have that side by side yet, and they don't have motorcycles or fancy cars yet, but they want to be like Bubba. And that's the problem is we learn from guys like Bubba instead of learning from people like you and I who have broken that mindset. So rather than thinking that you need a second job or a third job or a fourth job, good Lord, or getting a pay raise or hoping for that promotion or things like that, you need to go figure out how to disconnect time from money, because most people think that money comes with trading units of time. So getting paid by the hour. And there's even some salary people out there listening to this going, well, that's the peons. I'm a salary person. Well, guess what? Hate to bust your bubble, but that's ego talking. And a salary is actually a lower paid hourly worker because they base your salary on a 40-hour work week.
And you work more than that.
2 weeks. It's literally, if you go into the payroll system, it is an hourly rate. It's not a salary rate. It just calculates up to a salary. So don't think you're high and mighty because you got a big boy or a big girl salary. You need to understand that those are time-based increments of wealth. And if you understand entrepreneurship, you can just get away from the whole phrase of time is money. Because if you hear that and if you repeat that, you've got the wrong mindset. If you believe it, you definitely got the wrong mindset, because entrepreneurs, we know that time is not equal to money. Time is not even related to money. You and I are talking on this conversation. I'm probably making hundreds of dollars in the background, maybe $1,000 here and there, because I've learned how to make money while I sleep. I've learned how to make money while I'm on vacation. I've learned how to make money while I'm surfing Instagram, sitting on the commode or in the shower. Wherever I can be, whenever I can be, I can make money. I don't have to check in somewhere. I don't have to be somewhere. So therefore, time is not related to money at all. And that's when you start to really open up your eyes and go, wow, there's a whole lot more potential out there for me to do things. You just got to learn from the right people.
That's really powerful. I just read Principles by Ray Dalio. I just put it back on the shelf up there, but it said something along the lines of we're all struggling with the puzzle of figuring out how to do more than we think we possibly can. Something along those lines, right? We all think we're constrained in a certain bucket, but once we start to think differently outside the box and how do we delegate and scale ourselves and multiply our output for the same amount of input, that's when you start to be able to make money on the commode or in the shower or on vacation. And so that's really amazing whenever I talk to entrepreneurs who have built businesses like that where, oh, look, PayPal payment came through or whatever, another check cleared, all being done automatically without you even having to worry about it. It's literally like nighttime money. You wake up and you see your phone. Oh, cool. 5 new checks or incoming payments.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And the first time that it happens to you, especially with an online business, the very first time that happens to you, and it's not as hard as it sounds, it's going to give you so much more confidence to see what the potential and the possibilities are, because that's what I help people with. And I mean, somebody can start a Shopify website just selling print-on-demand T-shirts. They can design a little logo, put it out there, and they make $10. But that first $10 you make virtually, when you didn't have to actually go do anything or show up,
that's the best.
Your eyes just become so big. You're like, holy crap, I've always read about people doing it. I didn't believe it could happen for me, but here it is. And now it just squashes that disbelief, man. And then they're like, dude, let's go. Let's turn this up. See,
exactly.
That's cool stuff.
That's really cool. I guess the main thing that I struggled with when I was trying to do online businesses and start affiliate marketing, I had no clarity in what I wanted to do. And I was dabbling in a couple of different things. And I think a lot of people do that when they first start off. Maybe some of the listeners listening to this right now are in that holding pattern of, well, what am I passionate about? What could I actually make? And so it's really cool to hear that you actually pursued your passion in cars, built up a site for that, built up a membership community. You were able to monetize that. So it was something you already loved to do, because if you try to just do something for the money, chances are you're not going to stick with it long enough, right, to actually make it successful.
Dude, you nailed it. Too many people are always seeking the money, because I get it. We need money. You need money to make impact. You need money to have options in life. We understand that. But the thing is that if money is your sole purpose, you're not going to win. Very few people win when that's their sole purpose. What you should be shifting is not what's in it for me, but what's in it for everybody else. If you can go out there and solve problems for other people, and problems is not necessarily a negative thing. Like, you're not trying to solve alcoholism or abuse or these negative things, because the word problem is a negative word just when we read it without context.
Right.
But we only use that word because you're solving a problem or challenge for somebody. Somebody, maybe they just want to be entertained, and you create the avenue of laughter or something, that an app that engages them. Well, you solve the problem of boredom, right? It's not the bad thing. So think about what are the skills or knowledge or the things that you can do to solve the problem for as many people as possible. When you start thinking about, how can I solve the problem with not just 10 people or 100 people or even 1,000 people locally. How can I solve a problem or give someone a solution or the transformation that can span thousands or millions of people, billions if you're really good, right? So you got to think bigger. And when you start to solve problems for everybody else, the money is basically a scorecard. It's just a result. It's a value. It's an indicator of the value that you're creating in the world. And when you do things focused on other people and serving other people, it's always going to come back to you. So you can't get out of bed thinking, what's in it for me today? How am I going to get paid? Like if you got that attitude,
It ain't gonna work.
you're like the vast majority of people are always in it for themselves. And that's why there's a 1% and a top 10% and then the rest. So you got to get out of that mindset, serve other people, solve their problems, solve a lot of their problems, especially if they're high dollar problems. If you can solve high dollar value problems for a lot of people, you're going to be extremely wealthy.
I love what you said there about money being the scorecard for the value that you're actually adding, because you're right. I mean, a lot of us, I was guilty of it too. Well, I got bills to pay. I need to make money. I need to close this deal. You get that commission breath where people are like, is this person really trying to help me in my best interest, or are they just trying to get that check in a month? And so it takes some time to actually shift from that. And I know Andy Frisell has talked about this on the MFCEO project of they used to try to be making money and their store was making none when they first started. And then eventually they just said, hey, let's just do what we love and honestly, truly try to help these people out. And that's where the value, the referral started to come in, the business started to grow. And it can be tough if you're in that scarcity mindset. But I guess once you get past that, the checks start to flow towards you. People reach out. They want to support you and put money in your pocket however they can, because the value they're getting from you is so intense.
You mentioned scarcity mindset, and there's a lot of people that don't know that. And it's unfortunate because when you're in that mode, you don't know you're in that mode.
Right.
You don't even know there's another option to that. So there's growth mindset and fixed mindset, which is scarcity mindset. And if you don't know the difference between those two, I would suggest a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck.
It's a great
book. Read that book. The cover is horrendous. It looks like a terrible
psychologist book.
It's a terrible looking book cover. So if there's ever a case of don't judge a book by its cover, it's that book, because the book cover sucks and it looks like it's going to bore you to death. But I guarantee if you can read it and start to understand it and apply the things that are in there, it's going to change your entire life. Your perspectives are going to shift. You're going to start to identify people with the wrong mindsets that you're allowing in your proximity and your circle of friends. And you're going to start to question why you allow these people into your life, feeding your head with these negative thoughts and putting you in a different emotional state and limiting your potential or pissing on your dreams. So read that book, everybody, and really invest in that knowledge, because you're going to start to find, even when you think you're a growth mindset, here's the funny thing, dude. Even when you think you're a growth mindset, a positive mindset person, you're going to read this book and you're still going to see cases in that book that you're still guilty of. I'm a very positive mindset person, and I was thinking, I'm going to read this book and it's just going to validate my beliefs and I'm going to be all great and I'm going to be able to, become more aware. And I did. I became more aware of the areas I still needed to work on. So no matter how good you are, you still have a lot to learn in that book.
You got to love whenever books open your eyes like that. My girlfriend's a big fan of Jay Shetty, and he came up with this book recently, Think Like a Monk, and she read it ahead of me, and then I started reading it, and she's like, focus on the chapter about ego. And I'm like, I don't have an ego, It's like, I don't know. I feel like I'm confident in my own capabilities and beliefs, but then I was reading some things and I'm like, okay, I kind of do this. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I should not brag about that as much, And then I didn't even realize people gave me feedback that in my stories on social media, oftentimes I just talk about myself. I don't ask questions to the audience. And so it's helping me through reading and learning and talking to other people, learn about things that I do that might be annoying to other people. And, oh, wow, I just talk about myself all the time. Let me stop doing that. Right. So
dude,
it is interesting what you said there.
This is a subject that very rarely gets talked about. Well, what you just talked about talking about yourself and ego
all the time. Yeah.
So let's dive into this. Let's give some tough love Tony right here, because
let's do it.
That was me in my 20s. Okay. That was me in my 20s. And I'm going to explain why. And I hope that somebody's listening to this that maybe gains some awareness of this early and starts to pull themselves out of it, because I actually had to have external feedback from trusted friends to gain awareness back then. And I started practicing to get improvement. So I'm completely opposite now. Yeah. But here's how it works. if you grew up, especially without any kind of financial background or any kind of confidence, or maybe you were bullied, things like that. I've had experience. I've experienced racism growing up half Asian in a largely redneck community. I love rednecks because I worked in the plants, but you grow up around these things and you learn to fit in instead of stand out, because standing out gives a potential avenue of criticism or rejection and things like that. So we just try to blend in and not rock the boat. And while I was trying to come up through college and get that engineering degree, I was trying to establish authority, right? I was trying to establish that I wanted to pull a chair up to the table. And I always felt like I was left out and not given opportunities to be leaders and things like that as a kid. I knew I wanted to raise my hand and be a leader. I just didn't feel like I had those opportunities for whatever reason. And so when I became an adult, going to school, working full time, going to school, and I was trying to establish my authority and build self-confidence, right? And when you look around at other people, you think, well, I guess they kind of humble brag a little bit about what they do. And then maybe that's what confident people do. So you're taking the wrong notes from the wrong people, obviously. And it's insecurity is what it is. It's insecurity. And nobody likes to admit that. I mean, you don't go into, I'm not going to go walk out on a stage and 1,000 people go, who's insecure? Raise your hand. Like, guarantee there might be like 2 people in the room that are honest. 2
Right.
people. And you know that 100%
wants to raise their hand
100% of everybody listening to this has insecurity. Everybody does, but nobody wants to admit that. That's vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
So break past that. And that's when you start to get into the ego play, right? So here's examples of what you might be doing when you have insecurities. So I would participate on the car forums, and maybe Chris would jump in there and say, hey, I bought my new car. Check this out. And you'll post a picture, and you might go, well, man, that's a great car, Chris. Congrats. Like, here's mine. It's a little bit nicer than yours, or it's a better color than yours. Or you might say like,
humble brag.
That's awesome, Chris. We have the exact same car, and you'll post a picture of yours. When you're always trying to
one up somebody. What do they call it? Tommy Topper.
Like one up or even up. I would say both of those apply. When you're one up or even up, right? Or maybe you're really happy about it. Like maybe you go on vacation somewhere amazing, right? You go, I went to Hawaii. It was amazing, and did this thing, and you're posting up photos or something of your journey. And then there's always that one person's like, oh, I've been 15 times, and here's some photos of I went. Did you go here? Did you see this? And they're like taking over your post, right? That's a sign of insecurity. So
right.
We can all feel that, right? We can all feel like responding like, oh man, I can't wait to share, and I want to show what I did. We can feel that. It's a human emotion. But what we lack is the awareness to stop in that moment and go, man, I need to let them have their light. I need to let them and just encourage them, or not say anything at all, right? Just don't engage in trying to level up or one up people, because unless you're asked, if someone's like, hey, I went to Hawaii, like share your Hawaii photos. And then it's like, boom, like I'll go all in then, right?
Yeah.
So there's other cases like maybe you have an education, you have a degree, and you want to feel like you're superior. And I'll tell you, even when I was younger, I would use a higher vocabulary because I didn't want to sound redneck dumb, right? So I would use a higher vocabulary so I sound more intelligent. And that's another insecurity. When I meet people, even older people, not just young people, and they're not PhD professors who always speak like that, because the people in that profession are always trying to one up each other and sound super intellectual. And, they might as well wear a monocle and like have a little cigarette on the end of a stick. So you see these things and they're not comfortable about something about themselves. They're trying to elevate themselves by either vocabulary or things like that, trying to perceive some aura of greatness. And to me, that just seems like insecure, because I've gone through that journey, dude. I understand. I've kind of gotten past that. I started to realize that my purpose and my message were more important than trying to sound super intelligent. So when you start writing books and you do podcasts like this, your message and the takeaways are far more important than trying to impress somebody with vocabulary, right?
Right.
So to me, I'd rather have everybody, 100% of you listening, understand what I'm saying and have some feedback and have some aha moments than me sitting here with a thesaurus trying to confuse you. And I mean, even some book authors are like that. You read these books and you're like, you get 10 pages in, you're like, man, this person is full of shit.
They didn't know what this word was.
Like,
they definitely
read
used a
this.
thesaurus. Yeah,
Like,
I had a book like that I
I'm
just read.
Yeah,
I had to ask. I have an Alexa over here. I don't want her to start talking about me, but I had to ask her. Like every other page, I'd be like, "Hey, what is?" It's kind of convenient because I could ask her what the hell the word meant.
Terrible.
Yeah,
like, I would rather sit there with the most brilliant person in the world teaching me something and speaking at an 8th grade level all day long. all day long.
Absolutely.
And it happens from the stage, where I'm a speaker. You'll see some speakers get up there and they're just, the crowd, they just glaze over because they don't understand what the hell this person is saying. And it's like, dude, like, get your message is what matters, not the whole vernacular and all these things that you're saying. Like, get it to the message.
Simplify it. Yeah. And I hear that all the time with presentations and things like that. You should do it like as if you're talking to a third or fifth grader. I can't remember the grade that they mentioned, but it has to be such that everyone understands what the heck you're saying. If you're using all these big words and you're losing people, just like you said, the ego, a lot of people, they're afraid to admit that they don't know what you're saying. I've done that before. I've been guilty of hearing someone say something on a podcast and I kind of just go off of context clues. And I'm like, I think I know what that meant, but I had no idea. Because I don't want to sound dumb sometimes of like, wait, what is that word that you obviously know what it means and I don't. So learning to actually dumb it down a little bit where you don't have to have that awkward conversation or pause. I think that helps a lot.
Yeah. Just ask. You know what? You'll actually become a stronger leader when you just ask questions that you think that, especially on a podcast, right? If you think that if you didn't understand it, there's probably a good chance a lot of your listeners didn't understand it.
Right.
And they're probably thinking, Chris, what the hell, man? Why don't you ask what that meant? Because I want to know too. See, and you're the gatekeeper to the information. So they trust on you, right? So I do listen to those things. And I'm like, whoa. Let's back up. What was that? Explain that in detail, 8th grade level, because I have audience, you always had to have that awareness, but I love that because I love that you shared that. You feel like sometimes you talk about yourself too much, and that's the Instagram world. Right. That's the Instagram life. And here's the thing. A lot of people think that followers means you're a leader. It's not even close. Not even close. There's a lot of people out there that have a lot of followers who people aren't following them. They're following the shit they have or the beauty or the flex. If you're a dude that's jacked and got muscles, or you're a girl with big boobs and bikini body and, or you drive a bunch of exotic cars, but you're never in any of the photos and you think like, oh, I'm super awesome. I got all these followers. Like, dude, you're not a leader. They're just following the shit that you have, which they would like to have for themselves. So it ain't about you. You could walk by, they wouldn't even know who you are. You're not a leader. You're not influencing anything. I don't even like the term influencer unless you're influencing people to actually change their lives, to do something, have takeaways. That's a real influencer.
Exactly. That's really powerful what you said there. And I mean, I saw your post recently, and I know we're going to dive into Clubhouse as well, but you said Clubhouse is kind of a testament to the fact that all these people who flex on Instagram and those images, when it comes to having to speak as the only way of getting followers and adding value, a lot of them may not be able to compete or hold their weight. And so Clubhouse it's just showing that people are able to communicate, add value through conversations and information and the way they deliver it. And a lot of those people who flex on Ferraris and Lambos and have great bodies, how well can they speak? How well can they convey a message? They're going to have to go to Toastmasters 101 and get to our level, I guess, right?
Definitely, man. And I think that was one of the greatest investments in my life, is going to Toastmasters and hiring a speaking coach and learning tips from my mentor, like Ed Milet, getting speaking lessons from him backstage and things like this. There's a good value of that, right? So the thing is that, Clubhouse, the new app for 2021, it only applies for Apple right now. If you have an iPhone or a iPad, a newer iPad, it has to have iOS 14 operating system. So if you have those, and if you don't, you know what? You should go buy a used iPhone off of eBay for like $150 because you don't have to have it connected on service. You just use it on Wi-Fi. So you just have to have the device to run this app, right? It's well worth the cost of admission from the things I've seen. And, just to give you guys an example, I've already booked $72,000 in new clients in 1 week from hanging out on that app.
That is amazing.
By just dropping value. I mean, I sent you 1 week. I started last Friday and here we are Saturday morning and I just crossed 5,000 followers. So it's crazy what the return can be if you're actually delivering value and helping people and answering questions. And it's a great time to be in because it's still in beta mode and not many people are on it. I think it's probably 10 million right now. Last week when I started, there was 1 million. It's grown that much in 1 week. So you got to jump in now, especially if you want to build your influence strategy going forward, because this app is like addiction. We call it crack house inside. And it's true because the voice, Chris, is a very, very awesome way of transferring energy, because although we do Zooms, we've all been doing Zooms, everybody in the world right now for the whole year. That's a great way to transfer energy too. I love doing Zooms with my coaching clients and my mastermind groups.
Yeah.
But there's just something about a voice. It's almost like that song, the show, The Voice, right? You hear the voice and you feel the energy, and then they turn those chairs around and they see him for the first time. It's very similar to that vibe. And we can definitely hear the authenticity and the message and the heart. And you can hear the nerves on some people, when they're feeling the courage to finally speak in the group, and you hear the tremble in their voice. Like, you feel like, man, I just want to give that person a hug and like encourage them and tell them they got this. And like, thank you for having the courage to speak. That was the first step. And yeah, dude, your Instagram flex, it doesn't mean shit over there. And it's funny because when this first started out, we get to put our little picture up. There was a few people that started putting their little blue check mark on their logos from their whatever platforms, from if they're Twitter or Instagram.
But we're all new again on Clubhouse.
They're trying to bring their verification clout from other platforms and try to go, well, I'm super awesome. There's that whole like ego thing and insecurity thing. When I see the blue check mark, I'm like, insecurity, because it's not even the same app, dude. It's not even the same platform. You're trying to
bring a check mark from Instagram
somewhere else. And you're hoping that somebody that sees your little blue check mark is going to click on it. That's like vanity metric, right? It's like, how about you just fire up the microphone, drop some nuggets, give somebody some education, inspiration, encouragement, some tactical takeaways. And guess what? They're going to follow you. They're going to follow you. You have a great opportunity.
That's awesome. And I mean, that's a great platform, I would imagine, for us podcasters, because we're already firing up the mic and the camera and doing these videos, having these interviews and these discussions on a weekly basis. So if we're able to engage people in a platform like that and allow people from our audience, air quote audience, who are in that room, they can participate as well. I can definitely see the value of making it almost like an interactive podcast in a way. That's what it seems to be from my first few encounters of trying to open it up and join different rooms and see what's going on. But yeah, I mean, how do you mind sharing and diving into some of the strategies of how you've been able to amass 5,000 followers, over 5,000 followers in about a week? Are you collaborating with other people hosting these rooms? Are you starting your own rooms? I've just really have no idea how to even go about it, because I've joined a few rooms where I'm one of like hundreds of people at the very bottom and they don't even let you raise your hand. And I'm like, well, how do I participate?
So first of all, with Clubhouse, you have to follow the people that you want to hear speak so you can see which rooms they're in. So that's step one, right?
Cool.
The other thing I think that most people fail at right now is that they're not getting their bio page. You get a little bio page. You can actually put a lot of stuff. People make some of them way too long, right? And people get lost after the first 5 lines or so. But the top 3 lines are critical. Those are basically like your headlines that you got to grab somebody's attention. So the top 3 lines of your bio, which is the only thing they can see until they expand your bio to see if they're interested. You have to have like that 1, 2, 3 punch, just something that grabs them. Like mine starts off the side hustle millionaire. And when anyone sees that, they're like, whoa, what's that? Because nobody is that. That's me, right? That's my branding.
That's
and
cool.
Now that makes them expand it and they see the rest of the things I do. So you got to do that. And it also helps with when you get invited to the stage to ask your question or speak. A lot of times the host of the room will say, hey, Tony Whatley, coming to ask a question. He's the side hustle millionaire. He's a business coach and he's a podcast host. Like, Tony, what's your question? See,
that's cool.
So if you prepare for that moment, you don't have to waste a whole lot of your time babbling about yourself and what your backstory is. And that's the worst thing you can do, really. Like, if you get into the rooms, which are almost like fireside chats with experts answering your questions, and you're doing Q&A with people with 7, 8, 9, sometimes billionaires hanging out in there. I mean, really.
Right.
And you're asking them questions, but you're spending 5 minutes babbling about your backstory and nobody
Wasting
cares.
time.
It's like, dude, get to the point. So when you ask the question, hey guys, my question is boom. And then anyone that's going to answer is going to, well, give me some context here. Like, what business or what, like, they're going to ask the questions they need to know to answer their question. Right. So don't preface that with all this BS before it. The other thing is, I think that you mentioned about how do we grow it fast? Yeah, definitely. It's a collaborative effort. Okay. I would say that anybody that's starting, go find 10 people that are kind of like at the level that you want to grow with, and maybe in the same vertical. Like if you're in coaching or speaking, go find 10 other, people that are always going to be on that platform and DM each other. It still uses Instagram or Twitter to do the DMs because there's no message function, but it links your Instagram or your Twitter to that account, so they can just click on it and go over there and send you a DM. But find those people that inspire you, that are maybe doing some good things, that are putting out some good content on there. And you don't have to know them. They don't have to be your friends. They could be people with, your podcast guests and things like that. That's great. That's what I've had a few of those as well. And RTA Syndicate, I've had some friends in there that, we kind of collaborate. And so what happens is that the people that are influential, they get on the stage and they're going to pull you up. If they see you in the audience and you're friends with them and they know that you're going to drop value, they're going to bring you up. So the more you can get up onto that speaking platform, the more followers you're going to get, because I've been in rooms with 1,500 people, 2,000 people, 3,000. I mean, you can imagine like what an audience looks like with 3,000 people in it. Like if you're at a physical speaking venue with 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 people, you're talking like stadium stuff, like basketball stadium size. And that's the kind of people that are in there. And if you can get on the stage of those, on a few of those, like people are going to see what you do. They're going to click on your bio. And if it's interesting, because those first 3 lines, they're going to follow you, because it's such a new platform. Everybody's just craving content and value contributors. And when they hear you, I'll tell you, every time you speak up and you drop a bomb, it's this weird reaction. You'll get a shitload of follows on Clubhouse, but you'll also get a shitload of followers on Instagram, because they want to see what you're doing or validate what you're doing, or what are you doing over there. And I've picked up probably about 800 followers on Instagram in the last week.
Dang.
From being on Clubhouse.
I saw you say not to sleep on Clubhouse.
Yeah, dude, if you're building Instagram, you should be on Clubhouse and dropping bombs. Like anytime you can open your mouth and drop a bomb, like do it. And there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. Okay. So first of all, you can create your own room, and I highly recommend you try that with your friends. Like you can just go, hey, find 5 people or 10 people and go, hey, let's go start a room together, drop some bombs on this subject. So the room, when you create it, you can create the headline of whatever you want. That has to be a hook, right? Put a headline out there that grabs people's attention. So when they're scrolling by, they go, hey, that looks interesting. Right. And then you jump in. So you could just go, okay, we're going to create this room, and then have your people up there, your pals, as moderators. They get the green star next to them. And you guys just field questions from the audience. And if you keep dropping value, everybody up there is going to get followed. And you go, hey, these panelists up here, these moderators are delivering a lot of value. They're here spending their time trying to help you guys. Everybody in the room, follow them. And like, boom, everybody starts following them, right? Because cool. you're helping. They're like, cool, yeah, I'll do that. It's easy. And so when you get into these rooms, and some of the rooms go all day long. See, that's the beauty of having like 10 people. You can go start a room. I'm actually a member or a panelist in a room that's been 24/7 for 16 days in a row.
Jeez.
So this couple, this husband and wife, started this room, and they had a form actually to fill out that make sure that we're 7-figure business owners or have that history. And they validated that way. They didn't put any bozos up on their stage. And, they did it really like a business, and which is cool, because they wanted to set the world record for the longest Clubhouse, which had already passed, I think, at day 15. So I was a member of that. And here's the thing is I got on that panel, and it was like very busy, because it was one of the earlier rooms. And that's the crazy amount, because I could go to sleep and I could come back and jump in, and it was just always there. It was always 24/7. So if you're listening to this, and maybe you're real estate, maybe you go, hey, I want to go do the real estate, like power 24-hour power hour, whatever. You just call it something that grabs people's attention. The people that you want in the audience are the ones you want to serve. And maybe you find somebody in like this. These people are smart, because they found people in Australia and the UK and Thailand to also be panelists
24/7.
Dude, like you jump in there.
That's
and you
smart.
got your friend like from Australia running it, and while we're
I'm going to go to bed. You're waking up.
Dude,
okay, take over.
They were so smart about making it international, and you could totally do that with any subject. So find some awesome people are willing to carry the torch like through that. And if you could do that, it just kind of snowballs, and it grows and it grows and it grows, and your profile is literally out there all the time. So that's one of the things when I would go to sleep, since I started getting a big following, it would attract my followers to that whatever room I'm in. So I'm helping them out. So I would just leave my profile up there and go, hey, I'm going to go tap out for the night, but I'm going to leave it up here so more people can get in.
Cool.
And then I would get probably 100 followers just while I was sleeping.
So instead of leaving the room quietly, you're staying in the room and you just keep the app open and sleep?
Yeah.
Smart. Because I keep on.
So get your squad, 10, 20 people that can do that.
Okay.
And somebody's got to be the leader, of course, like to moderate the show. And then when you got to take a meeting or do something, like, hey, Chris, take this for next 2 hours. Like it's your show. Like, boom, it just passed the baton. they're running the show until they get tired or whatever happens. And then you just keep passing the baton between you. And then people from the other side of the world wake up and are like, hey, good morning. And, I'm here again. And like, you just keep it running, man. Just keep it going. And you just agree with everybody. Hey, you're more than welcome to leave your profile up here because your followers will find us because you're in the room, right?
Man, you're dropping bombs already on this podcast, because I was leaving the room and taking my profile down and all those things. But if you can get your credibility up and get as a moderator in those groups and then hand off the baton, like you said, keep your profile up, as they're continuing the conversations, all those people are going to come follow you, follow your Instagram, see who you are. And maybe the moderator, I've heard this in a few rooms, they may be like, hey, Tony, are you still there? And then wait to see if you respond. And then they'll say, oh, well, maybe he's still in that meeting. But yeah, Tony's really good at X, Y, and Z. So whenever he comes back on, make sure to ask him. And so they're helping boost your credibility as well while you literally are asleep. Very cool.
Yeah. And you could do what we do as a mic check, because it shows the mute button, kind of like on Zoom.
Yep.
And so if you're the host, you go, hey, which moderators are still with us? Like, do a mic flash, and you can tap it on and off, and it'll make the little thing flicker so they know you're still present. So that's kind of cool. So people can come up from the audience.
Mic flash.
Hey, I saw Tony was flashing his mic. I wanted to ask him a question, right?
Yeah, because I guess that was the one thing. I mean, it is a little overwhelming when you log into all these different rooms and it's people talking, and it's almost like when we're looking at each other, I can see if you're about to start speaking, so I can kind of stop speaking. But in the Clubhouse app, sometimes I hear 3 people are starting to try to talk at the same time, and then they try again, and then one person's like, here, you go ahead, Tony, that kind of thing.
It's very polite. It's been very polite. I've been really surprised when you have, sometimes there'll be 50 people on the stage, and it's amazing how polite people can be. And that part, I was like, wow, that's actually working really well.
Yeah. And I think the biggest benefit to that, I mean, I've been doing these little mastermind groups, nothing official in Houston. I have 5 other like founding members we call it the OG mastermind group, because we've tried to extend it to others. People have been flaky, and this was all before COVID. So now it's been more Zoom calls. But yeah, some people are flakier than others. They'll come to one, they don't come to the other. Then the next time they come, they try to bring up something you talked about the time before. So I think in Clubhouse, it's kind of neat how that conversation continues to go, where you can get a nugget from someone and it expands, people expand upon that idea. And it's almost like you literally are using that mastermind mentality of more than one mind, 2 minds becoming 3, that kind of thing. Because you're leveraging so many millionaires, billionaires, and even just experts in their field. So I definitely got to take another look at that.
You'll find that there's some people out there who have done some amazing things. They don't necessarily have a big follower because it's a new app. People are discovering it every day, and they come in and you go, oh, they only got 20 followers. Like, who are they? Like, you start getting into that ego thing again, right? And you dismiss people. You got to be careful about that, because some of these people are
They're legit.
Time New York Times bestsellers. You go Google their name, you're like, holy crap, you founded that company. And it's amazing the people you meet. And I'll tell you that the networking really happens in the DMs. So when you start to engage with the people that you admire, sometimes the easiest way to get on the stage is to find whoever's the host, which is usually the top left person in a room. That's usually the originator of the room. Click on them, go to their Instagram, follow them, send them a DM and say, hey, I'd love to be a panelist in your room. Here's my accolades and my proof that I can serve. Like, anything I can help, I'd love to help, be a part of that. And you'll find most of the people have been high level engagements and are like, hey man, thank you for that. I'll look for you in the audience and bring you up, or you come up. And the best way to also get attention, and you can see this, you can start to get relationship capital, is raise your hand as a questioner, right? And that's the one thing I'll tell you, like, don't ever go up there and pitch yourself. Don't go up there and talk about yourself when you're supposed to be asking a question, because unless you're asked, it just looks like you're hogging the stage, right? It's like, dude, like you're disrespecting all of these panelists who are here to answer questions. You're disrespecting all of the audience who are waiting in line to ask questions. So you go up there, and the best way to open is thank the room. Like, if you can just acknowledge the panelists right when you start. Hey, honored to be here. Tony, I've seen you dropping some values today. Kimmy, I've seen you like whatever the names are. Just be like, I really appreciate you giving this opportunity to us. But here's my question. So if you can do that and you make a habit of doing that, people will start to remember your face, right? Over time.
Very good advice.
And eventually you're going to get a little bit more notoriety, and maybe they go, hey, I really like this guy. And they pull you up from the audience more often because you do that, right? So that's key, building those relationships, and then get in the DMs, because I'll tell you that my DM box has never blown up like it has lately. I mean, I'm probably 100 plus a day, and if I have the time, I'll respond to every one of them. And I have been responding to every one of them, just if it's a thank you or whatever. But
yeah,
build those relationships. As a podcast host, you're going to get some amazing guests from this for sure. I've already booked 8 new episodes coming up, and they're like mega name people. I'm like, holy crap, this is a lot easier than I thought, because they hear you on Clubhouse. They're on the panel with you. You're kind of joking back and forth, and then you get in the DMs, and they're like, "Yeah, man, I want to do that." And I've got 3 potential speaking events to attend now on other stages because of being in there, the connections I already made. So in 1 week, nearly 6 figures in revenue from coaching, and 5,000 follows and 800 follows on Instagram, and some really awesome relationships. That's the new thing.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for all the tips. And I want to be respectful of your time. I know we've got about 5 minutes left, but I mean, I think we talked about more than I knew about Clubhouse. You answered all the questions that I had and more. Do you think there's anything else that we need to talk about in terms of Clubhouse? I know it's adding value, developing relationships. For everyone listening, make sure to rewind this back and listen to the episode twice, honestly, because it's an opportunity that you don't want to sleep on, like you said. I mean, people may miss out on the Bitcoin wave, and now it's over 40K or whatever the crazy numbers are. But Clubhouse is new. It's still something that people are downloading every day, and now is a great time. It seems like you said, to build your platform, develop a room that actually engages people, and that will blow your following up. Because even with our podcast, you can make a call to action. Hey, if you like this show, go to the show notes and click on this. But it's not as easy as literally Clubhouse takes you to their Twitter or the Instagram page in a second. It's going to be more people going through because it's just so much easier to do.
Yeah, and I would recommend only connecting one of those. If you have Twitter and Instagram, just use the one that you use or you prefer. Otherwise, people can send you messages on 2 different platforms. It kind of gets out of hand. So
great idea.
Pick the one you want, and don't be afraid if you don't have a lot of followers, because it's just they're just using it for a messaging interface, right? I'm sure they're going to build their own. But if you have a small following on other socials and you feel like you missed the boat on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all these things, this is your prime opportunity, especially if you're willing to open your voice and share value. And like you said earlier, not talking about yourself as much. I kind of feel awkward introducing myself. I do it kind of like a podcast host now instead of like talking about all the things I do.
Right.
Because I know if I just bring the vocal variety and energy to the mic, they're going to click on my bio anyway. I'm not stupid, right? So understanding that, I just got to make the energy in the room raise, and then boom, people keep looking. So that's a key. So if you have the courage to do that, you can build a huge following right now. And if you wait a month, you probably won't, you're going to miss that opportunity. You're going to be like everybody else. It's just like, well, I'll give it a try, and and I'll look at it. And no, be intentional about it. As you just heard me, my phone has been on it 24/7 for an entire week. And that's a reason I got 5,000 followers in 1 week. It's a crazy record. And that's the kind of games you have to do to build that notoriety in an early wave and be an early adopter. And I didn't like TikTok. I mean, I had it on my phone, and I was like, I'm not going to do stupid dances and put music on. It's like, that's just not me, dude. Like,
Same.
I'm not going to do that. I want to miss that boat. Right. So when you think about this, is like, especially if you're in the business sector or the personal development or any kind of coaching or anything that you're doing out there, there's so many contacts out there right now. And this is where all the energy is going. You look at all the info. I mean, literally, I was on a panel with Grant Cardone and Damon John of the Shark Tank. And last night, Forbes Riley and I were chatting on, she's going to come on the show, and talking to people I've been admiring for 20 years, just in a room because I'm a moderator with these people.
That's awesome.
Ty Lopez jumps in, and Elena Cardone, and it's just amazing the people that are using it. So that's telling you, when all the influencers and all the big names are on this platform, that's where the energy is right now in this world. So there's a reason that they're there.
Absolutely. And even with podcasts, you get access to people. Like, I've interviewed a few people like Dean Graziosi, Dan Fleischman. I mean, those opportunities, but it did take a little time to like reach out and book them and make sure they're available and then do the call. Whereas here, you may just get that opportunity to ask Grant or, Ty a question and get a really good answer without having to try to get past an assistant or book them on your show, which could be 4 months out because they're very busy people. So that's a lot of value for sure. But yeah, Tony, I know we got a couple minutes left. I want to give you the opportunity to drop any last bomb, any takeaway you think the audience should implement today, as well as where they can follow you, connect with you, listen to your podcast, and all of that good stuff.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. My website is 365driven.com. So 365driven.com. And I'd invite you, since you're podcast consumers, go check out my show. It's called 365 Driven. It's on all the same channels as Chris's, and he puts out a good show himself. And from there, I would just say, dude, if you're listening to this and you're hesitating about taking action in life, whether that's starting a business or going on that fitness journey or even firing up Clubhouse for the first time and raising your hand to go on the stage, when you start to feel resistance or hesitation in things, that is an indicator. When you start to feel fear about doing something, that is an indicator. These are the indicators that you shouldn't be running from those obvious situations. You should be embracing those and improving your skill set. So maybe you have stage fright, for example, or you're afraid of cameras, but you know that that's a necessary skill set to attain to be able to be the right person to carry your message to solve your purpose. That's what I had to go through. So rather than running from fears, start confronting them in 2021 and really thinking about, maybe I don't have that skill set right now, but that was the same problem. Thousands, if not millions of people before me had the same problem. How did they solve that problem? Go pay somebody to accelerate that. Get it out of your head. Go do the reps. That's the only way you're going to improve. And understand that fear, that thing you're avoiding, the thing you're procrastinating, is probably the most important thing that you need to go achieve and do in your life. And it's going to change your life. And that's why you procrastinated it. That's why you push it away. So when that happens, the entire world changes because you've made it over that hurdle. And when your entire world opens, you start looking for your next biggest challenges and the things that create hesitation or resistance in your life. And instead of running from those, you realize that that's where the growth is going to occur. So you start to go chase more of those. And when you start to get that mindset, there is no limitation in your world.
That's powerful. I've heard a quote that says fear and excitement are almost the same feeling. And when you think about it like that, just like you said, instead of running from it, run towards it. And I think I saw your 365 Driven from your event. You said, we don't retreat, we advance, right? Was that the line that you used? I love that, because you go towards those fears, and that's what's made you a better speaker. It's made you speak on stage. I saw at the Arte Syndicate live event, you spoke on that stage as well. And I mean, no matter how, people get nervous. I'm sure Brendan Burchard, Tony Robbins, they got to get themselves pumped up before getting in front of a stage of tens of thousands of people. And hopefully, I can't wait to get back to that, of course, after all this COVID stuff. But for now, Clubhouse can be that stage. And so thank you, Tony, for jumping on the show, dropping all these nuggets, and great connecting with you. I know we're in the same city, so we'll probably run into each other here soon. And let me know if I can ever be of assistance or share your message with my audience in any other way as well.
Hey, man, thank you for having me on, dude. And it's been an honor.
Likewise. Thank you, Tony.